A marathon hearing of Chuck Schumer's defeated amendments dragging the impeachment trial well into the morning hours.
Yeah, senators set to return today, just hours after staggering out of the Capitol last night. What can we expect in day two?
Joining us live is former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Malcolm. John, thanks for being here. Good to see you this morning.
Good to be with you.
Now, look, a lot of people are making the argument, and you're going to hear it a lot today, that the Democrats essentially spent all this time yesterday laying out their case for the American people, what they want them to hear, and what, in their mind, is what Republicans are not allowing to happen. What do you say to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, so the day was supposed to be arguing about amendments to the proposed rules from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, but they had an awful lot of time to use, and sort of they began have 24 hours to make their case, including repeating whatever points they've already made, supplemented by the record that they were able to develop in the House.
Sure, there'll be a lot of redundancy today. Let's take a look. Look at all the amendments that Mitch McConnell was able to table by having the majority. Here's a list of everything that Chuck Schumer tried to get through and failed. Mitch gave a little bit up front, had a minor loss in the beginning, but then held his caucus together pretty successfully, right?
Yeah, it really wasn't much of a loss. So what he had originally said was, well, I'm going to give each side 24 hours to make their case, and they'll each have 2 calendar days to do it, which would have made for two very long days for each side. And he decided to make that 3 days for each side, which is exactly how it was during the Clinton 1999 impeachment trial. In fact, the rules that have been adopted are remarkably similar, with really only one exception that I can discern to the rules that were adopted for that trial.
Now, there were many heated moments throughout the 12-plus hours. Let's go ahead and take a listen to a portion of it.
The president sometimes relies on a theory of absolute immunity that says that he can order anybody in the executive branch not to testify to the House or the Senate. It's embarrassing the president's counsels would talk about this today.
The only one who should be embarrassed, Mr. Nadler, is you, for the way you've addressed this body. This is the United States Senate.
You know, the Chief Justice took control here, basically, essentially saying enough is enough, that this is the best deliberative body in the world. Civil discourse is the rule in the Senate. What do you make of it?
Well, look, I think that the Chief Justice is not going to have much of a role to play, but trying to keep decorum in the Senate will be one of them. I'm sure that people will be tired and tempers will flare. You know, as to the substance of the point, Jerry Nadler has said, well, the president is just invoking executive privilege all over the place, and that's why we had to impeach him in Article 2, obstruction of Congress. Yeah. Well, guess what? Presidents going back all the way to George Washington have invoked executive privileges. That's why we have courts, in order to resolve knotty constitutional issues, and that's one of them.
So the fight over witnesses, which is probably the biggest fight, is going to be delayed until after the opening statements, we understand. Right. And there is this small group of Democrats that are considering maybe, you know, a Hunter Biden for John Bolton swap, that each side gets somebody they really want. Do you think that any of the leadership on either side would go for this?
Well, it's ultimately not up to the leadership. You've got to get a majority of the senators voting for witnesses and deciding which witnesses to call. There are 53 Republican senators. Everybody's sort of talking about Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Mitt Romney. The latter two have already indicated that while they were going to vote to support these rules and wait until after the lawyers argued, they are presently inclined to want to hear from witnesses, including possibly John Bolton. And in order to get a fourth senator to join all the Democrats, perhaps Lamar Alexander, Pat Roberts.
But I guess, do you think that more than 50 would go for both of those? I mean, is there enough agreement amongst 51 people that both of those men would testify?
I think if you got all 43 Democrats, 45 Democrats and the 2 independents, and you were able to get 4 Republicans, that's all it would take. Such a swap would be possible. You might hear from a couple of witnesses. Those would be the 2 most likely ones. But we'll see what happens after the lawyers make their arguments and the senators ask their questions. But it's possible.
Okay. All right. John Malcolm, thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Good to be with you.